The movie begins with Jake Sully, now chief of the Omaticaya, narrating his peaceful life on Pandora alongside his family. He shares that he and his wife, Neytiri, are parents to 5 children, 2 sons, Netiyam and Loak, their daughter Tuk, an adopted daughter, Kiri, and a human boy named Spider. Jake explains that Kiri is the daughter of his close friend Grace, who tragically died while helping the Na'vi in their fight against the humans. Spider, on the other hand, was left behind when the humans were forced to retreat to Earth. Jake points out that despite their differences, the children bond like family and care deeply for each other. However, not everything is smooth within the family. Neytiri harbors resentment toward Spider, as he is revealed to be the son of the ruthless Colonel Miles Quaritch, the man responsible for nearly annihilating the Na'vi. Spider was abandoned on Pandora because he was too young to be transported back to Earth. One evening, as Neytiri and Jake talk, they suddenly spot bright ships in the sky. Panic sets in when these ships descend, bringing destruction in their wake. The Omatikaya's home is set ablaze, with animals and land reduced to ash. To their horror, Jake and Neytiri realize it's an RDA spaceship carrying humans who've returned to colonize Pandora and establish a new base of operations. The scene shifts to a human laboratory where scientists have created a Na'vi clone of Colonel Quaritch. This new clone possesses all the Colonel's memories up to the point of his death, except for the details of how he died. Alongside him, the soldiers from the original assault on Pandora have also been cloned, all intent on seeking revenge on the Omaticaya, particularly Jake. Meanwhile, Jake leads a counterattack, organizing a Na'vi assault on the RDA's supply trains. The mission succeeds as they hijack ammunition and supplies, but not without consequence. Loak, defying his father's orders, gets himself injured during the battle. Jake scolds his son, urging him to learn discipline if they are to survive the upcoming war. Meanwhile, Colonel Quaritch meets with his superior, General Ardmore, who fills him in on some bad news. The Na'vi's airborne allies, the Scones, are wreaking havoc on their helicopters and slowing down their operations. Quaritch, ever the strategist, comes up with a plan to invade the forest where they previously fought, aiming to gather intel and prepare for a future strike. He and his squad soon reach the forest, but fate has other plans. Jake Sully's children just happen to be playing nearby. As Quaritch inspects the area, he stumbles upon his old robotic suit with his own remains still inside. A grim reminder of his past life. Unbeknownst to him, Loak has spotted them and quickly alerts his father using a voice transmitter. Jake, always cautious, warns Loak to stay low and make a quiet escape, but things take a dark turn. As Loak and his siblings attempt to flee, they're ambushed and captured by the humans. Colonel Quaritch examines their hands, and the realization hits him. These are Jake Sully's kids, his arch nemesis. Moments later, Jake and Neytiri swoop in, attacking the soldiers and managing to rescue most of their children. Unfortunately, Spider is not so lucky. He's taken by the humans. Later, when Quaritch questions Spider, he quickly realizes the shocking truth. Spider is his son. Back in Omaticaya, Jake makes a tough decision. He suggests to Neytiri that they must leave their home and head toward the eastern seaboard, fearing that Spider might accidentally reveal their location to Quaritch. Jake reminds her that as long as they remain with the tribe, they'll be hunted relentlessly. After all, he's the one who killed Quaritch. Neytiri is heartbroken, but knows her husband is right, and reluctantly agrees to leave. Meanwhile, General Ardmore isn't playing nice. She subjects Spider to a torturous interrogation, strapping him into a rotating machine to extract information. But Spider, loyal to his Na'vi family, refuses to crack. To everyone's surprise, Colonel Quaritch steps in and stops the torture, unable to watch his son suffer. He assures the general that he'll handle things from here, and later tells Spider that he's not the villain. He even offers to take Spider back to Earth, which softens the boy's heart. Eventually, Spider agrees to provide the information. Soon after, Jake and his family leave their home, flying across Pandora on their scones. After days of travel, they arrive at the Metkayina clan's village, where the Na'vi are lighter in color and more accustomed to water. The locals greet them with mockery, poking fun at their strange appearance, setting the stage for an uneasy alliance. Soon, the tribe's leader, Tonawari, arrives with his wife, casting a doubtful eye on Jake and his family. He doesn't think they're fit to survive in the water, but Jake, desperate to protect his loved ones, promises they'll adapt quickly. He also reveals that humans are hunting him, which convinces Tonawari to let them stay, offering them shelter. He assigns his children to teach Jake's kids how to swim and how to handle the creatures of the sea. Eager to help, Tonowari's children lead their new friends to the ocean, showing them the basics. Ever the prankster, Loak tries bonding with a sea creature but loses control and tumbles into the water. His new companions burst into laughter at his blunder. Meanwhile, Kiri, off on her own, seems to have taken to the water like a natural, even commanding some of the sea creatures. The next day, while Kiri meditates underwater, Aonang, Tonowari's son, and his friends mock her, calling her a freak. Loak steps in and punches Aonang in defense of his sister. When Jake finds out, he's furious and orders Loak to apologize, reminding him that Aonang is the clan leader's son. Loak reluctantly does so, and while Aonang publicly forgives him, he secretly harbors resentment. Planning revenge, Aonang tricks Loak into swimming in a dangerous area, knowing predators lurk nearby. While Loak is fishing, a massive predator attacks, leaving him terrified and isolated. Just as the predator closes in, a gigantic creature named Payakan rushes to Loak's aid, defeating the predator with a powerful blow. Payakan, a tulkun, a peaceful and intelligent species considered sacred by the Metkaina, is revealed to be the largest and most formidable of them all. Loak, now safe, is brought to the surface by Payakan, who he helps in return by removing harpoons lodged in its side. This act of kindness seals a deep bond between the two, creating a beautiful friendship. Back on land, Loak is summoned by Tonowari, who has learned of his son's actions. Surprisingly, Loak covers for Aonang, claiming the entire incident was his own doing. This gesture softens Aonang, who begins to see that the newcomers might not be so bad after all. Later, Loak shares his incredible story about Payakan with his brother and friends, but to his surprise, they don't believe him. Instead, they tell him that Payakan is considered a killer and has been shunned by the other tulkuns. On the other hand, Spider briefs the Colonel about some Na'vi culture and takes him to the Hallelujah Mountain to select a scone for him. At first, the Colonel struggles, but soon, he gets the hang of it and flies it around. Shortly after, he also gets information about Jake's possible location and heads towards the Metkaina reef with his army. On arriving, he confronts some water Na'vis and inquires if they know Jake. When the Na'vis say no, the evil humans kill one of them and also burn their houses. Despite this, the Na'vis stand by their statement. Left with no options, the Colonel signals his team to go for Plan B. Now, he wants to kill the Tulkuns in large numbers, hoping that this will finally draw out Jake. But there is also another advantage of killing them. The Tulkuns have a precious liquid inside their brains, which can increase longevity. On Earth, a single liter of this liquid will go for millions. Soon, some hunters start chasing after the sea monsters. They strike numerous trackers in them and render them unconscious. In a heartbreaking scene, we can see a mother Tulkun brutally laid to death while her offspring lies by her in shock. The humans eventually leave, with the trackers still inside the Tulkuns. When the Metkaina discover that their friends are getting killed, they become angry and decide to engage with the attackers. However, Jake calms them down and mentions that they need to inform the Tulkuns about the trackers first. This is the only way they can prevent a future strike. As soon as Loak hears this, he leaves to inform his best friend, Payakan, about it. Aonung and a few other locals also join him. After a while, they eventually meet Payakan and prepare to pull the tracker out of him. But just then, the Colonel and his hunting crew arrive in their whale ship. After seeing them, Loak connects to his father and informs him about the situation. In the nick of time, he and his friends also manage to pull the tracker out of Payakan's body. After this, they hide underwater while the Colonel's crew starts looking for them. Meanwhile, Jake approaches Tonowari and informs him that their children are missing. This worries the latter, and he quickly orders his people to prepare for war. Jake and Neytiri also grab their weapons, and soon all of them collectively head towards the battlefield. On the other hand, the Colonel orders his crew to launch their attack on the Tulkuns and find Jake's children. After searching for a while, they eventually find Kiri and Tuk and capture them in a net. Loak tries his best to tear the net but gets himself pulled to the whale ship with it. Soon, the Colonel arrives and cuffs them to the railing of the ship. He then takes Loak's collar transmitter and asks Jake to surrender for the safety of his children. Having no options, Jake agrees to his conditions. At the same time, Payakan notices his best friend, Loak, handcuffed to the deck and decides to save him. In a risky move, he suddenly jumps onto the deck and starts moving its massive fins. This throws away a lot of soldiers and obliterates the ship. Taking advantage of this distraction, Jake and the Metkaina also launch their attack on the Colonel and his army. They want to save their children, but also want revenge. Meanwhile, Spider breaks the controller of the whale ship, causing it to strike the rocks and allow water to fill inside it. Next, Jake and his eldest son, Netiyam, quickly climb the deck and free Loak, Tuck, and Kiri. They then order the children to return to safety, but Loak refuses. Instead, he decides to save his adopted brother, Spider. Netiyam also joins him, and after a bit of searching, they find Spider. When they are about to leave the ship, the colonel notices and opens fire. Unfortunately, Netiyam gets hit by one of the bullets and is severely injured. Loak and Spider immediately take him to the shore to their mother, but because of excessive blood loss, he passes away. Seeing her son die right in front of her eyes, Neytiri starts crying and screaming loudly. Meanwhile, the evil colonel manages to capture Kiri and Tuck using his scone. He later connects with Jake and reveals that both his daughters are with him. After getting this information, Jake somehow calms Neytiri down and persuades her to join him and save their daughters. The latter obliges, and filled with rage, she calls her scone, grabs her bow and arrows, and goes flying towards the ship. Soon, Jake approaches the ship and causes an explosion, killing the colonel's men. Neytiri also arrives there and starts shooting arrows at the remaining humans, killing them instantly. Meanwhile, Jake finds his little daughter, Tuck, and frees her. But at the same time, the colonel also shows up. He is holding Kiri at knife point. He then threatens Jake to put down his weapons, and the latter reluctantly does so. In the meantime, a vengeful Neytiri captures Spider and threatens to kill him. At first, the colonel mentions that he has no relation with Spider, but when Neytiri makes a small cut in the boy's chest, he immediately leaves Kiri. With this, Neytiri and her family prepare to leave, but the colonel mentions that he will again hunt Jake down and kill him. Later, Jake realizes that he needs to eliminate the colonel to live a peaceful life. Hence, he returns to the battlefield. This time, the arch-rivals fight each other in an old-fashioned fistfight. It is a brutal one, and the two match each other stride for stride. But in the end, it is our hero, Jake, who prevails. He manages to wrap his arms around the colonel's neck and knock him unconscious. Jake assumes that he is dead and lets him drown in the water. Unfortunately, he too struggles to breathe and starts sinking to the bottom. But at the same time, Loak comes to his rescue and brings him back to the surface. Later, Payakan carries the whole family and brings them to the shore. On the other hand, Spider also pulls his biological dad out of the water and saves his life. But when the colonel asks him to leave the place with him, Spider refuses and returns to his adoptive family. In the last scene, Jake's family and the whole Metkayina tribe bury Neteyam's body at the bottom of the ocean, where the lighting tubes embrace him like their own. The movie ends with Jake remembering his best memories of his elder son and realizing that he is in heaven with their gods.